Last Friday I told you that I was going to talk about Black Orpheus, and I hope that you could find some way to see it. I wanted to give you a little bit of warning it was coming. It's absolutely worth your while to see if you care about an artistic movie. It's an adaptation of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. It won the Academy Award Best Foreign Film in 1959. It's a movie I get fairly excited about having been able to show it to students because I could give them a look at Brazil. It affected my life. I'm not saying it's the only reason that I chose Brazil when I went into the Peace Corps, but I lived 3 years of my life, I lived in Brazil and became fluent in Portuguese. Now the vision you get of Brazil in Black Orpheus is not realistic, but it's gorgeous. Rio de Janeiro is where it's set. It's possibly the most beautiful city in the world. Now in fact, Brazil is a very violent place. I was knifed at one point when I was down there. My daughter lived there a year, and she was mugged on a bus with money stolen and stuff. It's got a reputation for being a dangerous place, so it would be wrong to say that that really is Brazil, but you get this vision of beauty is what somebody called it. Anyway, Black Orpheus, let me start with the myth itself. Orpheus was this fabulous musician, the best musician the world ever knew. He could die. He was immortal. He wasn't a god. Probably had a god for a father or something, I don't know. But anyway, when he would make music, he could make the wind stop. The water would stop flowing in a river when he would play his lyre. It had a magical influence, an unbelievable musician. And of course the women, they loved him. Handsome guy who could make all this wonderful music. But he only cared about Eurydice. That was his true love, Eurydice. Well, Eurydice, she was an attractive woman, and some guy was chasing her out in the countryside. He was chasing her. She was running away, and as she was running away, she didn't see where she stepped, and she stepped on a snake. The snake bit her, and she died. Well, Orpheus was so grief-stricken and desperate that he couldn't live without Eurydice. So he decided to make the very dangerous journey to the land of the dead to see if he could use his music, sing for Hades, and with his song soften Hades' heart and get Hades to give Eurydice back to him. So he does this. He goes down there and he sings, and it works. Hades says, yes, you can have her back, as long as you don't look back at her until you get free, get out of the gates of Hades. Well, on his way out, Orpheus gets this panic attack that really she's not back there. And he looks to see if she's there, and what he sees is Eurydice fading into the land of the dead, and now she's gone. He can't have her back. Well, he's distraught, and he's interested in nobody else. But the women love him so much that the end of Orpheus is that a whole bunch of women converge on him, and they all want him, and they tear him to pieces. So that's his violent death. Well, that's my version, quickly told, of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. Now, what the movie maker did was he took that and adapted it. This is an adaptation. He adapted it. So Orpheus is now a trolley car driver who plays a guitar, and he lives in a favela, which is like the slums of Rio de Janeiro, up on the mountains. So you've got this gorgeous view of Rio de Janeiro down around you, and in fact the favelas, or barrios they'd be called in Spanish, are where the poorest people live. Up there he lives, surrounded by beauty. And Eurydice is a country girl, played incidentally by a real pretty black woman who's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She's not even Brazilian. Marpessa Dawn, I think, is her name. Bruno Mello was a soccer player, and he's the one who played Orpheus. Anyway, she comes to Rio because she is afraid. A man has been chasing her, and she's frightened. She wants to get away, and so she hopes that if she stays with her cousin in Rio, the guy won't be able to find her. He'll get away. She arrives on a ferry, and when I saw the movie in the theater back then, I said to myself, if I ever get to Rio, I'm going to ride that very ferry. And I did. It's the ferry from Niterói. Well, now there's a bridge. I don't know if the ferry still operates or not. It probably does. She arrives and stays with her her cousin, Orpheus, meets her. They fall in love. This is set during Carnival, in the second half of February, when in so many Catholic countries there's just steady partying for a week. The carnival at Rio is the most famous carnival in the world. Mardi Gras in Louisiana, New Orleans is the American equivalent. Anyway, it's set during Carnival, and that I don't want to tell you the whole story. But that gives them excuses to be dressed up in costumes, because every neighborhood has a samba band, a samba dance, and they compete to see who wins, and they have these fabulous costumes. Well, at one point, Orpheus is dressed up like a Greek. He's dressed up like the Greek god Apollo. Well, anyway, Death is the guy finds her. He has followed her. There's no escaping him. And you definitely get the feeling that that's not just some scary guy. That's Death itself is going to get her. And he arrives at the dance, and she's terrified. She runs away. Orpheus tells her to wait, or Hermes, the station master, says, "Go, I'll send Orpheus." And she goes to the trolley car station. And there he chases her, and she grabs a cable, trying to get away. She's hanging on this cable, and Orpheus turns the lights on, not knowing where she is, and she's electrocuted. That's how she's killed. Then she's taken, in this adaptation, she's taken to the morgue. Her body is taken to the morgue. That Orpheus wants to try to find her, so he is desperate. And a friendly custodian in a building, dressed in white, helps him, takes him to a Macumba ceremony, or Shango. It's like voodoo, sort of. Takes him there, and that's the land of the dead, you see. And there he sings, they chant. This is very weird. The movie might actually be a little bit weird for you in parts, but I recommend you see it anyway. And he sings and chants, and then he hears her voice. And it's coming out of an old lady behind him, and he wants to see her, and he turns around to look, and then the old lady is there, and her voice is Eurydice's voice, and she says, "Adeus, nunca mais vai me ver." Goodbye, you'll never see me again. And he's lost her. He runs from the land of the dead. Now he's distraught. He gets her body at the morgue, takes it up to the favela, and his girlfriend Mira, who is insanely jealous, and she's gone berserk. She's burnt his house, and she's running around screaming, and this is his end. I mean, she throws a rock at him, and he falls to his death off the cliff. But it's not over. There's this wonderful touch at the end where these little kids are playing, and there's this little girl dancing, and she's all in white. And I'm telling you this way too fast, but I just, if you see the movie and you open your mind to it and think about how is this being made, you'll see why I'm pointing this stuff out. And at the end, what you figure out is this story never ends. She's going to be the next Eurydice. The boy's going to be the next Orpheus, and it will always go on. There's always going to be an Orpheus and a Eurydice. And at the very end, there's an echo when it comes back to the Greek image that you see at the beginning. Well, that was too fast, but so be it. I'm still going to give one more video, because there's some things about this that I still want to point out now that I've run the story by you. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and then I'm going to start it one more time.